Our dinner time is connected time. Tables are for togetherness.
How do parents manage screen time in a way that actually builds connection instead of daily conflict?
First of all, you will hear me time and again talk about principles because they are firm ground to stand on. And principles really help us have conversation with our kids about things that matter and that they can understand. And so the principles that I heard you mention are moderation, health, and connection. If you were to come to that and say, hey guys, these are the things that I think matter in our household. Moderation, not doing too much of any one thing or too little of any one thing. We need the right amount of teeth brushing. We need the right amount of eating. We need the right amount of sleeping. We need the right amount of connection and the right amount of doing your own things. And then that health is a component, that we're getting the appropriate amount of exercise, that we're getting fresh air, that we're eating appropriately, that we're sleeping enough, hydrating, all these things. You can have conversations about those exact things. To talk about connection in establishing your principles, you might say, what are the best times that we've had together? And hear what they have to say. If it's not something where you're together, it's like, oh, well, I beat Minecraft on the couch one Saturday morning. You were at the table. We did that, but we were not connected while we did that. We were together, we were in the same space, but we weren't connected. What about the things we did together? What about the connections? My kids talk about our vacation and time on the beach when we built this big sandcastle and moat, or this time when we go to the Ren Fair, like times that we're together experiencing things. Swimming adventures, we hang out when we visit uncle and auntie. Those are connected moments that you can bring into mindfulness for your little ones. And it doesn't have to be a big event. It's just our dinner time is connected time. Tables are for togetherness. On top of the principles is creating environments where those principles are practiced, okay? The table is for togetherness. Connectedness happens at your table. Where else does it happen? I read stories to my kids in this bed. We cook together in the kitchen. Those are places and ways that you can have the conversation or sort of direct the conversation around establishing principles in your house. And you've identified those 3 principles, and I'd say build off of them. If those are 3 that matter for you, now what are principles that matter to your little? And this may seem like corny stuff, but that's okay because they don't have the big picture yet. They don't see the impact of having no principles or having principles that don't align with who you are. And then as you establish the principles, you say, okay, well, in order for these principles to really live in our household, we need to practice them. Simple. So what does moderation look like? Well, moderation is finding the right amount. Simply, what's the right amount of sleep? You know, you told me to wake you up at 7 o'clock Saturday morning, but I realized I got to bed really late and you just slept through. Usually most mornings you're up at 6 a.m. because you know you have to get ready for school. You didn't want to get ready for school. I came in, I said, hey, you said you wanted to get up at 7 and you rolled over and you went back to sleep. I let you sleep. Why? Because I realized that you needed more sleep. You needed more rest, and young bodies do. Moderation. Health. You could talk about the same incident, or you could talk about that time we walked the dam, or that time we went to ride bikes together, or that time we went out and flew kites, the time we went to the beach. Those times you did push-ups with me, and the times you cooked together too. What's nice about those examples is that you've got the principles of moderation, health, and connection all sort of intersecting, because they do. The principles live together. The principles are brothers and sisters that hold hands and work together to create a happy, healthy family. That's what you want to remind them of when you talk about these practices. What is connectedness? Maybe you play video games together. Maybe you tell stories together, cooking together. The conversation around moderation, the conversation around connectedness can help to say the practice of these things looks like screen time happens away from the table, not during meals, and not an hour before bedtime. And then whatever other time, you block it off for connectedness. Now, how does that work? You guys get to decide. You get to put it together and make it make sense. You build it as a family, and that's what makes it special. That's what gives it legs. That's what makes it sustainable, okay? Just remember that they're going through the same development that you did. And the world is busy, and the world is noisy, and there are screens everywhere, sure. But it's still all the same stuff. They're still human beings going from being born to becoming adult, and we get to shepherd them on that journey. We're really not breaking new ground with any of this stuff. It's just a different technology, but the same methodologies apply. So build those special moments, use your principles to shape those precious moments. What are they? They're about connectedness. They're about health. They exercise moderation and step into that.